one's a filtered sample, so you're filtering all that out before you do the analysis, and the second one is not filtered. You're just taking the whole sample in
So
for
the first one
analysis.
is recoverable and.
The dissolved, the dissolved one, they filter first, and
Right.
the total recoverable is unfiltered.
Right, okay.
And then,
It's the
even when it gets,
digestion in the lab.
right, and then it gets digested in the lab so that they make sure they get all of the metal that's clinging to surfaces off of those surfaces.
Can I ask one more question on one more slide back? Sorry. So, on this one where we see I think it was back one more. On this one where we saw 5 times and this is dissolved.
Right, this is dissolved.
What's your theory on why we're seeing that at SSO5?
Well, because of what comes in at Buffalo Gulch
And both,
and MSD.
and those, but really our source areas, there's no uncovered source areas there. So what is it that's,
Actually, that's
and they're small.
$10 million question, I guess. No, you know, I think a lot, well, so some of the thinking is that there's still a lot of stuff on the hill, and a lot of the storm sewer system was probably bedded in mineways.
So you think it's stormwater?
And here's another effect that it's pretty well recognized now at this site, is that you usually have the highest levels, say in September after we've had a long dry summer, and then we get a rain event, because you build up salts in the soil, in the pores in the soil, and you know, microbes are being active and breaking down some of those minerals, and then you just have a big flushing event. So if we have repeated storms, they tend to be a lot less concentrated. And that's why I think this one was so high, is that although we had snow on the ground, we also have, below the depth of frost, we still have microbial action. So you have all winter. And this was a fairly cold, long winter. We didn't have many thaws that winter. And you just, microbes are still going at it all winter long.
Joe, I think to help answer Larry's question, maybe you can give a few numbers, like for example, where it starts affecting fish, what the criteria is for copper, 15 to 20, and then what your hit is up there at 5. Is it 2,000 or 3,000?
Oh no, that's well, yeah, specific number. I don't know. That doesn't have to be that high, because there's 2 things working during a storm too. You usually have fresh water coming in because of all the rain, and it's usually fairly low in calcium or hardness. So the standard number is dropping. At the same time, you're getting increased concentrations. And these numbers, I'm not exactly sure what those numbers are. They're probably like 20 or 25. And
Be toxic.
well, according to the standard, like I said, toxicity, that's a tough question to answer, actually, toxicity. Chad?
Is there any chance that that's groundwater from contaminated fluids resurfacing?
No, not in this. Just sort of peripherally. It's not a matter of, say, the parrot plume and the groundwater coming down there surfacing necessarily. Most of this drains other areas, and so it's just the areas it's draining. It's kind of ubiquitous. It would be really hard to link it to any particular groundwater plant. So Buffalo Gulch, the trunk line heads that way, so you can imagine it's pretty steep. Actually, it's a pipeline laid at quite a grade. And it daylights right here. That's my short blue line. That's Safeway right there. So it just daylights and runs right into the creek. Now, Metro Storm Drain, as we know, is this long channel, and it has these underground storm sewer systems that dump in at these different places. It's turning out to look like, actually, this may be one of the most important ones, and just some preliminary work looking at individual loads that hit the Metro Storm Drain, and this is the area that goes out here. It's called MSD South. Why that is, I don't know, but it it is a real player, yeah.
So when there's a storm event, is there any way to differentiate between what's the bigger contributor, MSD or Buffalo Gulch?
I'm gonna get to that a little bit, but, and it's been hard, and I'll get to that in a second, okay?
Okay.
Next slide. So, first of all, we're gonna kind of look at Buffalo Gulch. Storm sewer network that reports directly to the creek. There are no retention basins on it now, and there is diversion in the uppermost part of the, maybe the even, it's probably the upper third of the drainage. Next slide. So this is what storms look like at the mouth of Buffalo Gulch, so within Buffalo Gulch. And I'll point out that nobody's required to meet the standard in this storm sewer system. It's not considered a water of the state. It's the effect it has on the stream that counts. So you can see that, you know, we're roughly here between, and again, I'm only talking dissolved here, we're between 3 and 7 times the acute standard at the mouth. Next one. So Metro Storm Drain, reconstructed the channel. There's a fairly large sewer network that empties in to the MSD, and then the channel goes directly to the creek. There are no retention basins on it, and I think that there's diversions in to the pit in the upper Anaconda Road portion. This is what water quality looked like in Metro Storm Drain. You can see the gap in here where they were rebuilding the Metro Storm Drain and didn't collect any samples. And again, kind of the same thing, somewhere between 4 and maybe 11 is what you're getting. And I think I finally came up with an explanation of why, after they built the MSD, the clean incidence dropped out. And it has to do with kind of counterintuitive maybe, huh? So is what really happened is we moved the station. This station that collected these was fairly close to the creek. I think is what was happening was, as the creek state rose, we were getting backwater from the creek, so we were getting relatively clean water from the creek. And it's not that the remedy has made things worse. Yeah, that's good to know. So this kind of gets to your question, Emmett. Buffalo Gulch, let me say first, it is really, really difficult to measure flows in these storm systems themselves. We have continuous monitoring. Besides the USGS station, we have a number that are operated by TREC. But when you get into the storm drain system itself, the problem is you have long dry periods, and then suddenly you have huge flows, and it's been tried and it hasn't worked. So what's really been done is modeling, and using common model. I mean, they're used in every urban area in the country to figure out how to build storm sewer systems. And so we applied it here, and this is really what we learned by that modeling. I mean, it's pretty good, because it's still a model, but it's pretty good. That's what we've got. Buffalo Gulch has a very short, very sharp peak, and then it tapers off, but the whole input is fairly short duration. Maybe at the top of the peak it's higher flow. Metro Storm Drain, because it's so distant at the far ends, it's a broad peak, and the whole storm event is fairly sustained, so fairly long duration. So you know, this is probably, and this is maybe a little bit guess on my part, this is probably putting in less load over time than this. I'm sure actually this puts in a lot more load over time. And as you see, the concentrations were roughly the same.
So has the model been, I mean, is there any data been collected that you use to calibrate the model?
You know, it hasn't been calibrated, but we do have, like I said, Trex collected, data